to. Hi everybody, this is Reacher13 here of the Cookie Jar Bandits. Today I want to talk to you about something you definitely want to be doing and aiming for as you prepare, not just for next season, but as you prepare for the fall. Bungie has announced, and they're going to be kind of sticking to it, that weapons are sunsetting. So what that means is that a lot of your pinnacles, a lot of the guns you've been using are going to be limited in terms of how good they are come fall. This is bad news if you like Recluse. I know I do. Come fall, day one raid, you're not going to want to have that in there. You're going for the Grandmaster, or you're going to go for Master Nightfalls or Master Nightmare Hunts, or wherever the pinnacle high-end content is in the fall. Yeah, Recluse probably is not something you want to be bringing in. So as we looked at what weapons we're carrying forward, we found that there were only about 60 guns that were carrying forward, and we weren't really super familiar, didn't use a whole lot of them very often, and so we started playing around with the guns that weren't going to be obsolete come fall, and what we found is that a lot of them didn't quite feel as nice, which is probably why we didn't use them, or they weren't quite as effective, which is why we didn't use them. But there is something very, very important that you can do to keep yourself from being, kind of held back by the sunset. You can beat Destiny's sunset in the fall if you're strategic starting now. So when they announced the sunset was going to happen and they laid out the plan for the weapons and the armor, they included a very, very important caveat that I haven't heard a lot of people talking about. And at the Cookie Jar Bandits, we do a lot of the endgame stuff. We enjoy raiding. We go in day one. We have a lot of fun. None of us do this for a living. We play on Xbox. But we tackle the endgame content and we test the heck out of everything, trying to figure out the best strategies, best weapons. We're looking for any edge we can in the game because, hey, we're like anybody else. We want the game to be, we want to be as powerful as possible. We want to be able to do things as quickly and efficiently as possible. So one of the things we do is we look at the notes, and in the notes they announced that the Last Wish raid weapons and armor and the Garden of Salvation raid weapons and armor weren't going to be subject to sunset. And you might go, well, why not? We have a theory, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But in the meantime, knowing that these weapons and armor aren't going to be subject to sunset, and you probably haven't been playing around with them a whole lot. I know we hadn't, although there's some that I certainly like more than others. I wanted to get into kind of what weapons you should be going after in these two raids so that you can have the best advantage going forward, to be in the best footing to go into the endgame content, to go into a day one raid, come the next DLC in the fall, to go into those at the high level, at aspirational activities, and have success, to contribute and not be held back by poorly rolled weapons from earlier from the season that's going to come, or by using some weapons that you love that are great but are subject to the sunset light cap. So you can take a trash weapon, you can roll it into these, and boom, you're running some loadouts that you're familiar with, that are solid. They might not be super top tier guns in every instance, but they're usable, they're solid, they play well, you got good rolls on them, you're familiar with them, and you can infuse them with trash weapons to get up to whatever the light cap is that you're chasing. So I want to start out with the weapons from the Last Wish raid. And first I want to look at the Chattering Bone. Now this is a lightweight frame pulse rifle, which means you get the intrinsic mobility burst. It can roll with ricochet rounds, kill clip, ricochet rounds, outlaw or full auto, and rampage. Now I don't have that. This is a curated roll right here. You see with kill clip and high impact reserves. Get what roll you want. I like this one a little bit, but obviously I haven't used it a whole lot. It's a very solid pulse rifle. I know people use it in Crucible all the time, so it's definitely one you probably want to go for. Now, I also love this transfiguration. This is a very underrated scout, and if you can get this roll right here, it is a monster. It can roll with kill clip and rampage. Put a rampage spec on that, and your damage potential per shot is ridiculous. You can get rampage times 3, get a reload, stack it with kill clip, and you can be just balling out. Unfortunately, scouts aren't in a great spot right now, so this scout, even though it's a really good scout, is still a scout. However, there have been some indications that Bungie's going to be buffing scouts in the future, and especially going into that fall. If Bungie buffs scouts, this thing could be an absolute beast, PvE, PvP. It could be the best scout in the game with this role. So I highly recommend you get this role, use it, get familiar with it, stash it. And if scouts ever find a really sweet home like they did in D1, man, this thing's going to be one you want to have. Plus, it looks really awesome. You also have the Supremacy. Now, this is a gun that's probably very familiar to people. I've been killed with it a bunch in the Crucible over the last couple of years. It's a rapid-fire sniper rifle. It rolls with some good rolls. This wasn't one of the better rolls, but you can get arrowhead break. You can get snapshot sights and Rampage on this. It's just a good sniper rifle all around. A very good connect. It feels nice. Looks nice. Definitely one you want to have in your bag. You go to the energy slot and you got the age-old Bond. Now this is a high-impact auto rifle, which you're getting a buff in the coming season. This one here is a curated roll with Rampage, 4th time's a charm, light mag, and extended barrel. But this auto rifle also rolls with ricochet rounds, Zen Moment, Kill Clip, and Dragonfly. So it's got some great rolls, but the biggest thing with this auto rifle is it is max range. So if you go into that season coming up and you're at a light disadvantage, survivability is a little tough, and maybe your 2 submachine guns just aren't going to cut it. You need to be a little farther than submachine gun range, but you want to have something that hits hard and fires fast. This is probably your ticket. It's a very solid auto rifle. I don't think it's ever quite been top tier once the Forges came out. And you got Ring and Nail that popped in, and others that have come into the game. There's a lot of great auto rifles out there right now, but those are all going to be subject to sunset. This thing is exempt. It's very solid performer, very consistent, very steady, and max range. So it's definitely one I think you're going to want to have as you look forward going on. You also have the Tyranny of Heaven bow, which I don't have on my character here. It's a solar bow. It doesn't compete with the Hush, but it's the only bow that's not subject to sunset. It drops from the 3rd encounter in particular in the Last Wish raid, the Morgoth the Ogre. It's definitely one you want to have. Again, it's the only bow that's not subject to sunset. You also have the Tachyon Force, again, not featured here. This is a fusion rifle from the Last Wish raid, and frankly, just melted, just sharded. I don't see a place for this gun in your loadout. I don't see a place for this gun in your game. If you get it, even though it's a fusion rifle and it's not subject to sunset, if there's not a better option than Tachyon Force available to you, then you probably want to use a primary in your energy and run something else in your kinetic as a special weapon, because it's just not a good, it's just not a good fusion rifle. Now, the Nation of Beast is a hand cannon that I love. It runs with a few different things. It's an adaptive frame, 140 RPM hand cannon. It can roll with Kill Clip, Dragonfly, Rampage. It also can have Outlaw. This is a Zen Moment Kill Clip one that I just find really easy to use. It's a lot of fun. It hits hard. It looks sharp. It's crisp. Definitely one. The Nation of Beasts, it's always been probably in the top 10 for hand cannons ever since it came out. Not subject to sunset. Really, really good hand cannon to have in your repertoire. But probably the most underrated gun to get going into Season 12 in the fall is the Apex Predator. Now, this one is probably the one you want to get. It has auto-loading holster and tracking. I have not seen it roll with cluster bomb and tracking. I don't think it can. I may be wrong. If you get that, keep that. But if you can't get that, which I don't think it rolls with that, auto-loading holster and tracking is the way to go. And the reason why this is probably the most important gun to have is it's the only heavy weapon that's legendary that's exempt from sunsetting. So as you go into the next level content, this is it. You got exotics and you've got the Apex Predator. Everything else is going to have a light cap on it. This thing, season after season, you can infuse it, you can bump it up, you can bring it in. You can throw a trash linear fusion rifle into it, if you get a Crooked Fang or whatever the current Edge Transit is, throw it into this thing, and it's instantly at the light level that you need to use, and it's a solid performer. So definitely something you want to have on the Apex Predator. Now, if you look at the Garden of Salvation raid weapons, you've got some really nice options. If you go to the kinetic options, you've got the Accrued Redemption. This bow is great. This one is Rampage with rangefinder. It also rolls with sneak bow. You can also get explosive head. This is a very crisp bow. It fires great. The draw time is fairly short. It hits hard. I've found I really like this bow. So the Accrued Redemption is definitely one you want to try and get. You also want to get the Sacred Providence. This pulse rifle rolls with a few different things. It can roll with full auto or outlaw. It's an aggressive frame pulse rifle, so it's going to fire that 4-shot burst. You can get full auto outlaw in the first slot. You can get kill clip quick draw in the second slot. You want it with arrowhead break. This one doesn't have it, but it's still really good. But if you get one with arrowhead break, those perks, man, you've got yourself an absolute monster of a pulse. So keep your eyes out for that. It's a really good pulse rifle. Zealous Reward. As you move on to the energy weapons, I really like this fusion. It just doesn't have a great spot in the game right now. If you go to momentum control, man, that thing can absolute wreck. It fires fast, it hits its target fast, it one-hit kills in momentum control with a super fast charge time of 500. In momentum control, you'll be one-shotting people, melting people, and they'll be sending you hate mail. You go into the momentum control with this, and you will get hate mail, I guarantee it. So the Zealous Reward, definitely one you want to have. It's also the only fusion rifle that's worth having that doesn't sunset. The Techian Force is garbage. This thing is really nice. It's really good. If it gets a little bit of love in the future, I can see this thing being usable in a lot of ways. Right now, momentum control or shooting Void Minotaurs is probably about the only place in this game for this gun right now, unfortunately. Air Intels exists. Other fusion rifles exist that don't have any limitations on them yet. So it's probably not one you're going to use a lot right now, but you definitely want to have it down the road. Now, Omniscient Eye is a great sniper rifle. This thing is another rapid frame sniper rifle. It can roll with Mulligan, Outlaw, no distractions in the first slot. It can roll with Dragonfly. It can roll with Rampage. It can roll with multi-kill clip in the second slot. You can get arrowhead break on it in the first slot. This sniper rifle is really good. It's crisp firing, it's steady, it drops from the boss, and if you've played the raid a lot, you can get a lot of these sniper rifles. Beat the raid, get a few of these, get a good roll, one that you like and are comfortable with, and it will do you very well. It's a great gun. Now, probably the best gun, and one that I really desperately want the God roll for, is the Reckless Oracle. You see I've got a couple different rolls here. I've got Mulligan Demolitionist with ricochet rounds, and I've got Swashbuckler with Outlaw, Light Mag, and Hammerforged Rifling. Now, the roll that I personally want on this great auto, it's a 720 auto rifle. It's a rapid fire frame. It's steady. It's great. The roll I personally want is arrowhead break with either high caliber or ricochet rounds, Outlaw, and then either kill clip or Swashbuckler. That's what I'm going for. Every time it drops from the second encounter, I'm holding my breath and I'm looking at it and I'm going, not yet. One of these days I'm going to get it, and I'm super excited about it. It is going to be an absolute beast. In addition to the Reckless Oracle, you also have the Ancient Gospel. Now, this hand cannon is highly sought after. It is a 140 RPM adaptive frame hand cannon. This one's got rapid hit swashbuckler. But this thing, it has perfect recoil. The recoil direction on this thing is 100. You can get rapid hit or outlaw. You can get kill clip, swashbuckler, or even dragonfly on the final perk slot. This thing is a beast. It's great for PvP. It's very good for PvE as well as hand cannons go. if you're a hand cannon person, you already probably are aware you want this in your gun, but this is not going to have a sunset. You'll be able to bump this up. Definitely one that you want to keep going for. And then you have the Prophet of Doom. Now, I'm not as big of a fan on this gun. I've got Rampage and Feeding Frenzy on this one. It's a solid gun. I personally kind of want just a little bit more. Maybe it's that I'm not a big fan of the precision frame, the 65 rounds per minute shotguns. I've played around with this a bunch. You see I got 240 kills with it. It's a good, solid shotgun. Personally, I'm not a fan of how it feels in my hands. But it's also the only shotgun that's going to be exempt from sunsetting. It's legendary. So aside from the exotic shotguns, this is it as far as a shotgun you can use in day one raid, in end game stuff, in that aspirational content. So it's definitely one you want to have. Find a role you like. Find a good role. This one's good enough for me. Keep it available to you. If you're in a situation where you need a shotgun, you can throw a trash weapon into it, and here you go. You've got a usable shotgun. So it's definitely something that you want to keep your eyes out for. Guys, that's the weapons. Now, we talked before that we have a theory on why the armor for the Last Wish raid and the armor for the Garden of Salvation raid were exempt. And this is it. It's the mods. Bungie wants all the mods to be available and usable. In addition to those two sets of gear being exempt from sunsetting, they also announced that there's going to be a change to the seasonal mod slot. So if you go to the weaponal seasonal mod slot right now, it says it can use anything from the season before or after the item was launched. So you can come in here and you can put a bunch of different weapon mods on the Garden of Salvation armor. The change is it's now going to be able to take mods from an entire year that it was launched. So your Last Wish armor is going to be able to take every mod dropped during the year Forsaken was a DLC. All the seasons. Your Garden of Salvation armor is going to be able to take every Shadowkeep mod the entire year that Shadowkeep was a DLC. Which means you're going to be able to take your Enhanced Relay Defender mods on from the raid. All your raid mods will be able to take on it. It'll also be able to take your Powerful Friends mod, those really, really good PvP mods. Now they're going to be limiting you to one. They're not going to stack starting on next week with the new season. But these mods are really, really useful to get your plus 20 mobility, so you can have a roll, as you see here, of 100 on a piece of weapons. You can get that max mobility and high in other categories as well by bumping these pieces of armor up. So go for a good roll. Find the rolls that you like for these armor pieces. You'll be able to use all kinds of different raid builds. You'll use PvP builds from the Season of the Dawn, and you'll be able to get the Warmind cells on these as well. Plus the mods they're going to drop next season, all will be able to be used on the Garden of Salvation armor. So it's definitely a set of armor you want to find a good roll on, something you like, maybe in different elements, so you have that available to you. So if you're going into that day one raid, hey, you've got something that's a high stat, keeps you mobile, keeps you alive, and helps you play well. I also suspect that we may see the Taken come back. And that's where the Last Wish raid armor is really, really going to come in and be pretty powerful. The Last Wish armor will be able to take all the Forsaken mods, which means your Transcendent Blessing mods. Yeah, it can take those. Now, those are consumable mods, so if you were to replace that mod with another mod, you'll lose that mod. The only way you get another one is to go do a purification ritual. So the Transcendent Blessing mods, you want to be very selective with how you use them because they're consumable still, unlike just about every other mod in the game. But they also take the armament mods. So you take an armaments, your fallen armaments, your hive armaments, all of your Leviathan armor that dropped during the Season of Opulence, the Menagerie, on the Crown of Sorrows. All the Leviathan stuff is all going to be usable in these because it was reissued during the year of Forsaken. Your Fallen mods are going to be usable in this armor. Your Hive mods are going to be usable in this armor. Everything from that. So any your Leviathan armor or any of your species-specific mods, and those barrier mods and those armament mods are really, really key when you're going into an event where you're constantly running short on ammo because it takes multiple heavy shots to kill something because you're under-leveled, and survivability is an issue because you're under-leveled. Those mods are going to be very key, and I personally think we're going to be facing the darkness. Sounds a little Taken-ish. If it's not a new species, I think we're going to be fighting Taken again. So having the Last Wish raid with Taken armaments is going to be very crucial. And you can also get Taken spec out of the Last Wish raid. This is a really good mod because unlike your minor, major, or boss spec mods that give you a 7.5% buff, this gives you a 10% buff against Taken. So if we are going to fight Taken and you can get this mod to drop from the Last Wish raid, you're going to be at a big advantage. That 2.5% may not sound like a lot, but it could be the difference between surviving or using a res token in a raid. It could be the difference between being the last Guardian standing and surviving until you can revive a teammate or get a teammate back in, or wiping and having to restart the boss encounter. So guys, these are the advantages that you can have. Get yourself a set of the Last Wish raid armor. It also just looks really, really sharp. And get some guns that aren't going to be subject to sunsetting. So that no matter what Bungie does, no matter what weapons drop, are they better, are they worse, we don't know. You're fine. You're set. You can go into that content. We're getting this stuff right now for our Cookie Jar Bandit team as we go in, as we want to be ready for day one. We're already planning on the day one raids. Even though we play on Xbox, we're playing for fun. We like the challenge. We want to be prepared. We want to have a good time. So guys, I hope this helps you out. I wish you the best of luck, and thank you for tuning in. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. We'll keep putting out more content as we test things and come up with theories, and anything we can do to help you. If you have any opinions, anything different that you wanted to talk about, if you have a different role in these weapons that you want to make sure people know about, put it in the comments. We appreciate that. We appreciate all the feedback. We're here to try and help the community. We all play on console, and we know they play differently than on PC. So some weapons that you see guys use on PC, man, they're just not that good on console. We test things. We know what plays well on console in our opinions, and we want to help you out. So if you have any questions, you have any comments, drop them in the notes, and we'll try and help you respond and get back to you guys as quickly as we can. Guys, we appreciate you. Have a great time playing the game.